Welcome to Hey Girl, Who Are You? Episode 6. So we are going to be talking about parenting, single parenting, probably specifically, just because we both have experienced that, and I'm a single mom myself. And today I am going to talk about my son. I got a report that he called a couple little girls on the playground the B word. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah.
So,
I'm Alyse.
I am Taylor. And
This is Hey Girl, Who Are You?
yes. So, we wanted to talk about, I really wanted to talk about, how about that?
Catch me outside, had my dad. Sorry.
Did you ever even watch that video?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Oh, I feel like you were forced to in society. Like, it was like a have to.
Oh, my mom even watched it.
Oh my gosh. Your mom's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah.
Like, she's like...
She's with it.
Yeah.
She hit with it.
Single mom, shout out. I want to talk about parenting and single parenting. I'm a single mom myself of 3, ages 6.5, 5, and 2.5. And it is a huge...
Responsibility?
Well, I was going to say...
Part of your life?
Yeah.
Go on, Taylor, what are you going to say?
It is it's an honor to be a parent, but it also is something that is hard.
Yeah.
And extremely challenging. And it always is changing because they're always changing and you're always changing. So it's like trying to catch up with their change and your change is just crazy. So I have ran into scenarios in my single parent journey. I was personally raised by a single mom. I didn't really want to be a single mom. Just because I knew the struggles of when I was growing up, of things that I was missing, and it was hard. And I know my mom did the best that she could with what she had, and that's what we're all trying to do really in life. But I feel like I could see where the gaps were, and that's why I didn't want to, just because of not having a partner to support you in raising a human to go out into the world. It's hard. So
that partner sometimes serves also as like a sounding board, right? Like you bounce ideas off of each other, or when something happens, you can kind of discuss like how to handle it. When you're a single parent,
it's all you.
Yeah. I mean, you have support.
Definitely.
You build your support network.
Definitely.
But still,
like in the moment, so when you're at home and something happens, it's you deciding what's going to happen next.
Yeah. And I will tell you too that being raised by a single mom, there's also a lot of pressure that gets put on you. And I know for myself, when things would happen in life, and it like totally was not my mom's fault. Right. Like, and it had nothing to do with my mom, but because she was the person that was there, I took it out on her.
Right.
You know, and
Definitely.
So as your kids get older,
right,
you're
yeah.
I mean, unfortunately,
and I mean, not even when they get older. This happens right now.
Yeah.
Like, they're upset with me because of things that I am not even doing to them. It's other people that are making decisions that are affecting them. And it's still somehow my fault. Which I can handle things, to be honest. Like, I'm able to handle that. When I can control or help how they feel, like, if they can blame me all they want.
Yeah.
But the root of it is them feeling anger, sadness, whatever they are, when I cannot then in return, say, okay, you can blame me, but let me help you, I can't. And that's one of the hardest things.
Or like, I'm just going to throw this out there. Earlier you were telling me about the magnet. It says world's best dad or something like that.
Right.
And then, your son says,
I don't have one of those.
Yeah. Which he does.
He does.
But it's not, it's probably not the relationship that he would like to have.
Right.
But I can totally relate to that too.
Right.
Growing up, and schools would have like father-daughter dances, or
right.
I don't know, just different father-daughter events, and I always had a male figure going with me. I think my family was really awesome in that. I had
right.
a very supportive aunt and uncle, and my cousin, and so sometimes my uncle would step in, sometimes my cousin would step in, but it's never the same, and you always know that you're different.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I agree with that, because I didn't have a dad. Having this conversation and where my journey has kind of led me and what has made me realize is being a single parent is neither good or bad. It's not right or wrong. Like, I don't like placing fault, because I think that there is a reason that everything happens.
Definitely.
And I don't think that my kid's dad not being as active as some people may think he should be, it might not be right for his life,
or
in
for
this
the
time,
kids even,
or the kids and their time in their life, or for me and my, like, it will work out, which that's, I've had to find peace in knowing that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think about that a lot, actually, because I had a lot of anger in my heart growing up.
Right.
Knowing that my dad wasn't there. He was in prison, and I always felt like, he loved drugs more than me.
Right.
And so that's what led him to prison, and therefore he was not there for me. And, just getting older and understanding, like, what addiction means and what it might look like, and how I see it now, how it affects the kids that we work with.
Right.
So these are things that still stick with me today.
Right.
But in the end, I'm very grateful that I didn't have to deal with some of the things that I hear other people dealing with, as far as drug addict parents are coming home or interfering in their lives or whatnot.
Right. And how that's affecting them as well.
Yes.
Right.
The lesser of two evils.
Exactly. I was literally
it's like, either they're just not there whatsoever, or they're there and they're, like, fucking things up.
Right.
So, I mean, they're still fucking things up, but just in a different way.
Right. Which I completely agree. That's, I had a lot of anger because I didn't understand. I've never met my dad. I don't really know who he is. He actually passed away, who I think is my dad, or was my dad, I guess. And I had a lot of anger especially in my teenage years. When I was a teenager, like, I didn't want to be at home with my mom and my dad wasn't there, so I felt like, well, then nobody cares about me then, you know what I mean? Coming on this side of, being raised by a single parent, being a single parent, it was kind of a big transition, but it's also not easier. It's not easier. It's probably just, I can understand it better. But, I found out that my son was calling girls on the playground the B word. And when I found this out, like, I was livid.
This was just recently.
Recently.
Okay.
And I had this conversation with Amari. I said, first of all, let's sit down, have a conversation. And at first I was livid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, disappointed, angry. Where did he hear that word? Like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
This is ridiculous. Like,
is that how you were talking to him?
No.
Okay.
No. This is, like, me finding this out. Yes. Yeah. And so I'm strategizing because, one, I have been reading a lot of parenting books, and being yelled at is not efficient.
Right.
It doesn't work. I mean, I don't think I was actually yelled at. Like, my mom yelled at my brothers. That's a different story. It's not a sufficient way to parent a person or a child. Like, you can't yell at somebody and expect them to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah,
like, it's just not gonna
when
work.
Someone starts yelling at me, I just kind of tune out.
Exactly. Right. And it's easy for a parent to yell because you think that you are older than, like, above.
I think it's just your own emotions. Like, if you aren't, like, you were able to take time to feel your emotion and then to put yourself in another state
if my son was there when I found out,
yeah, things probably would have been different, don't you think?
I would say yes, but I'm learning to try to quickly analyze my emotions,
right,
and then get to actual thinking and logically analyzing the situation,
right,
and then going from there. I'm really trying to parent differently just so that my kids are more successful. And in this parent book, it gives an example of we're raising our kids to go out into society to be functional citizens, right? So why it's kind of like a cop, citizen scenario. You're speeding, going 70 and 60, a cop pulls you over. He doesn't instantly start yelling at you. He says, hey, do you know why I pulled you over? You're like, yes, no. He says...
I think it depends on who you are getting pulled over.
Yes.
That's probably another topic for another time, but...
True. That is. But I would hope most situations...
In this scenario.
Right. He or she would say, well, you were going 70 and a 60. Do you know the speed limit is 60? Can I have your license, registration, insurance, whatever? And then you have a consequence. Either he's going to give you a warning. That's a consequence. Or he's going to give you a ticket. So that's kind of how I'm taking a look on my parenting is, hey, do you know what you did, what you said?
You're having a conversation about it, and you're talking about what happened, why it wasn't okay.
Right.
And then that consequence then is directly tied to this wasn't okay, so that's why you're getting this consequence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to Amari, and I said, well, first, I heard that you were calling girls on the playground, and I didn't say B word because I wanted him to know that I knew that he said bitches. And he said bitches, so, there was probably multiple. He looked at me like, oh, crap, my mom knows. And I said, so my first question is, where did you hear this word?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't use it. I don't allow him to listen to music that hears that or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I said, did you hear it at school?
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, yeah, I've heard other kids say it. And, I think I've heard it other places too. I'm not sure. And I said, well, do you know what that word means? And he said, nope. I'm like, and I figured this. When I found out, I'm like, my son does not know what that word even means. He's heard it. He knows that it's mean towards women.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
So
isn't that interesting that you know the feeling of a word
before
you even know what the definition is?
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And then I go into, okay, well, and he's like, well, what does it mean? So I'm like, I don't really know the definition. I'm like, it means, and I try to put it in his words, words that he can understand. So I'm like, you're saying that she's stupid, that she's mean, that she's evil.
Less than?
Yes. And I was like...
A female dog? No.
I wanted to say that, but then I was like...
Then he'll be like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, no, not right now, because we were literally talking about this earlier today. So anyway, and in that moment, I was very in touch with how I was feeling, because like I wanted to make sure that he knew that I was disappointed, because
Right.
I said, Amari, if you don't know a word, you can't use it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I said, and if you have a question about a word, then you need to ask me.
Yep.
And then I said, he's like, well, I can't say it because I'll get in trouble. I said, well, if you have a question on the word, then you can say it to me.
Yeah.
But I said, but ultimately, you said it.
And again, he knew that it was bad then. Because
Exactly.
he knew he shouldn't have been saying it.
Exactly what I said to him.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to back himself out.
Right.
But so ultimately, I just said, well, you are going to be grounded. And then I told him, I said, words are powerful. Mm-hmm. If you use them for good or if you use them for bad, they still are powerful. Mm-hmm. And then he said to me, well, you've never told me that before. So then I was like, oh, I really haven't described to them why words are powerful, and you have to choose your words because they have meaning and they can hurt or they can heal.
But, and even, you know, I know as a kid we had the saying, sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. But it's so not true.
It is not.
But
Exactly.
we try to put it into kids' heads so that they don't, you know, feel things. But then that also tells other people that it's okay to say things because it's not as hurtful as physical actions. Yeah.
Exactly.
Confusing messages being sent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, literally, that's exactly that was happening. And I said, well, you know what that word means. You know that it can hurt people, because I said if somebody said that to me, I would be very hurt. Mm-hmm. That would hurt my feelings a lot. It was like, okay, and he was like straight faced and everything, and like this kid is never straight faced, like he's always smiling or something. So there was that, and you know, and I've been realizing that other, you know, situations in my life and the struggles of being a single parent, and this could go for a single dad or a single mom, that there's things that you have to encounter that other parents don't.
It's like your personal life is on the back burner,
right?
Because your kids' needs come first.
Exactly.
And whatever else goes on in your life is purely dependent upon where they are, what they're doing, you know, first and foremost.
Right. And you don't have a partner, yeah, to back you up.
Right. Yeah.
Like if their dad was here, or even let's say that we're not together, but he was in the same state, I could be like planning my coffee dates around the time that he would have the kids.
Right.
I was bawling this morning. Like, I was so upset and angry that, like, I have to do this alone, and I can't even fulfill something that I need to have a conversation with another woman, because I don't, it's me. I'm it, you know?
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating. And, I mean, there's tons of different examples. Like, this is just one of many, trust me.
That's really interesting because, you know, I'm not in that situation. I'm not a parent. I'm not a single parent. But I'm like, reflecting back on just growing up. And I don't ever remember my mom saying, hey, I'm going to go hang out with whoever.
Right.
You know, like, I was her world.
Mm-hmm.
And her work schedule, she made it so that she was working nights, so that she'd be home during the day when I was at school, or if I had sporting events, so she'd be home. She didn't have a personal life, you know. That's incredibly challenging because I think as humans, as women, we need to have connection with others.
100%. Our
age, you know, and
not even our age.
But just not our kids, I think, you know, like...
Right. I'm talking about, I mean, like...
community. You have to have, like, a sense of community. And, mind you, like, she had friends, and those friends were very helpful and even taking care of me. You know,
Right.
like the people that, one of the ladies she's still friends with, babysat me when I was younger. And another one that she used to be friends with babysat me. And so it really was a community, but outside of them babysitting me, I don't remember her actually taking time to go hang out with them on a personal level.
Right.
You know, friendship coffee date, going out to dinner, going to a show.
Something, right.
You know.
Right. And I felt like being on this journey of figuring out who I am, because, like they say, when you're on an airplane, if you have your kid with you, put your mask on first.
Yeah.
And then apply your child.
Right.
Even though we want to save our kid first and then ourselves, but we are worthless. We are not effective if we do not put our own mask on first.
Mm-hmm. And so, Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yes.
I will never forget that. I think it might have been one of her Red Table Talks or something, when she mentioned that she realized that she could not be an effective mother if she wasn't taking care of herself first.
Exactly.
And so she had to make sure that she was happy and that she was fulfilled, and that
100%.
that her emotional state was 100% before she could then effectively take care of her kids.
100%.
But she also is in a completely different, situation. I mean, she's got her husband. Financially, she's in a different situation where she can hire someone to watch her kids quite easily.
Right.
How do you do that when it's just you?
Right. Definitely. And
so how do you do it? What do you do? I mean, I know that was a disappointment this morning, but do you think that you are finding enough time to take care of yourself?
Some days, yes. Mm-hmm. Some days, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of, a double-edged sword or whatever. Some days, like, maybe it's weeks, maybe, or every 3 days, something like that. I feel rejuvenated and I feel good, and I've, read my Bible and I wrote my journal and I prayed and whatever, and I took a hot bath and did a bath bomb and got a massage, like stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then some days I'm going throughout life, working 2 jobs, and I'm just like burnt out. Mm-hmm. And referring to our last episode, like my list does not help, and then I have to remember that I still have to parent, and I'm trying to parent effectively, but then when you're exhausted sometimes, your brain literally will freeze, and you're like, okay, so do I just ignore my kids because I can't even think right now?
Right.
Or, what do I do? Mm-hmm. So sometimes yes, and sometimes no, but I think that before I have reached this point that I actually do make an effort to set aside time for me, like I wake up early so that I can be alone, mm-hmm. Quiet, I can read, I can do what I need to do by myself. And then I also make time with friends, time to do this because I enjoy this. This is, it brings me joy, and I think it's fun, and there's other things like that. And I take the time to, or try to take the time and set aside that so that I can have that community, not just with, my parenting part, because I think it takes a village, and you definitely need a community when you're a single parent. But for my soul, for me personally, to fill me up, I have to, take that time and try to make it work. That's going on this journey. Before, I didn't really. And I think that's kind of what led me to, like, what am I doing with my life? Mm-hmm. Because I don't even know.
What changed? What happened that made you realize, like, wow, I need to start
Jada Pinkett Smith. Hey, girl. If you want us on your Red Table Talk, just let us know. We might be free. No, I'm just kidding. No, I saw one of her videos. This was probably 3 years ago. It's when I lived in Arizona. The video,
That's why I'm not sure that it was a Red Table Talk.
I think it was before she started Red Table Talk.
Yeah, I think it was just an interview with someone.
I agree.
And
that was that video. She said, I didn't know who I was because who I thought I was my children's mother.
Yep.
My husband's wife. That was my identity. But then I didn't know who I really was. Because you're not, your circumstance. You're not just your husband's wife. You are an individual. And I think that's kind of what, did a little shift in my thinking. And then I continued to, it was like a continual shift over years.
That was probably like planting the seed.
Exactly.
And then it kind of grew from there.
Right. Exactly. But that's the thing that I've had to realize is really, and using my time wisely, because I am a single mom. So I can't.
And you're not just a single mom. Like, you're a single mom. You have 2 jobs.
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking today, how spoiled I am. My only job this morning was to read my book.
Right. I know.
And you were at work.
I know.
And I couldn't even read my book.
You're like, I was editing instead.
Actually, I fell asleep for a lousy nap that didn't really... Yeah.
I think I would never trade this for anything. If I didn't have my kids, I don't think I would be the person that I am right now. I don't think I even would be as mature or developed or you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I would be at the level that I am. I think I've worked hard on growing fast because I've had to grow fast.
Yeah, because when I was 25, I was a hot mess. And I didn't have kids, so yeah, I think you definitely had to grow up fast.
And I like growing fast, if that makes sense.
Well, you don't know anything different, right?
I mean, that is a true statement. Very true.
You better like it.
Right. That is true. I didn't even think about that. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I think that I pulled up, a article because it's not just, single moms. Majority, yes, are single moms, but there is single dads. And there's 22.2 million children that live in a single parent home. To me, that's a lot. So I wanted to kind of, if you're a single parent watching this, like, know that you're not alone.
What's some advice you would give to single parents?
It would be, take care of yourself. One. Like, that should be number one because, like I said, if you don't have your mask on, when the plane's going down, you can't put the mask on your child.
Build your village so that you can take care of yourself too, right?
Exactly. My next would be get a community, and a community for yourself to go to for your own personal needs,
right?
For community, but also a community that can surround your children. So like how you said you had uncles and stuff like that went to father-daughter dances. It wasn't the same, but it's better than not going at all. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So being that, and maybe for some children it might be enough for them. You never know.
We all react differently.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would be my second one. And then my third is, one day it's going to be over. So, enjoy it, because one day your kids are going to be grown out of the house and you're going to be like,
yeah, what do I do?
All right, so what's next? But I think what's important as well is take care of yourself and also still have your identity of who you are besides being that single parent or a parent to a
I think
child.
it's good for your kids to see that too.
Exactly,
That you
100%.
have interests and you have hobbies and you have things that are important to you, because it teaches them then to have interests and hobbies and things that are important to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be probably, I mean, yeah. And try to always grow, because I don't know.
What about to someone who is struggling with maybe not having a parent in their life, whether that be because the person was just absent or they did pass away? What would you say to that person?
I would say that you are loved, because even if you don't know it, you are loved. I mean, I love you, and I don't even know you, or I do know you. And I think that everything will be okay. And there is going to be a time where you're going to understand why everything happened and the reason that it happened. And you're going to, be at peace with what did happen in your past. But it also doesn't define who you are. You can decide the journey that you want to go on based off of many choices that you can choose for your future.
Right.
So
you might not have been able to choose whether or not your parent was present, but there are a lot of other decisions that you do get to make in life.
Exactly.
And how you make those decisions then will impact you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
I mean, so whatever your circumstances are and whatever cards you've been dealt, you just kind of got to take them and run with them, because that's the hand that you got,
And I think that there's things in place like, I don't know if there is in our actual area, but I know there's like community centers. I know there's like Boys and Girls. I know there's
Big
Boys
Brother,
and Girls. Yes.
Big Sister.
I was gonna say Big Brother, Big Sister. Stuff like that. If you're religious, your church will probably gladly, there's people. There is people who love people.
Yes.
And
when I was younger, my dad, I guess, would write into, it was probably a church organization. It was called Angel Tree. And they would basically adopt kids of prisoners and purchase gifts based on what the
prisoner
mother, father, based on what they said the child would like. And so every year, I would say probably for 4 or 5 years, someone would show up and deliver gifts to me, and it's like you said, you don't know that person, but it still means something. It's like, wow, someone cared enough to go out and do shopping for me, and show up to my house and bring me these gifts. And so, yes, there's definitely community resources available to help fill gaps or supplement where needed or whatever.
And let's say you're none of these things. Let's say that you're watching this and you're not a kid who has an absent parent, or you're a single parent.
Go be a big brother. Exactly. Go be a big sister.
Exactly.
People need you. Go volunteer in schools.
Yes.
These kids need mentors.
Yes.
And they need positive people to look up to and connect with and feel loved.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here.
Yes.
This was a good one.
Thank you.
Just make sure you like our Facebook, our Instagram, follow us, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments if you got anything out of this video, if you need anything, if you want to reach out to us, or if you just appreciate it and you actually are going to go volunteer. Or be a big brother or big sister, because that'd be awesome. So thank you for being here, and we will see you next Saturday.
Adios. Peace out.